Hi, and welcome to Taste Buds. My name is Charles Lazera, and I am the founder and president of Volio Imports. Our purpose in life, at least for the purpose of this discussion as we're talking to you, our friends in distribution, is that we connect you to that vineyard experience. In fact, our mission and vision is really exclusive to the idea of connecting people to the journey behind the bottle of wine. And that's what we're here to do today. So today we're going to talk about Cantine Povero, which is in the Piedmont region, specifically in the Cisterna d'Asti section of the Piedmont. So you're in the Roero side, not the Langhe Hills. And we're going to be talking about a few of the wines. I have a couple of images today of the Barbera and the Belvive sparkling wine. And really, I think the most critical part as we talk about the Piedmont is what does it feel like to go to the Piedmont? Because in these times, we're not able to really get in the plane and go over and visit our friends in Alba, which is the principal town, the center of commerce on the Langhe Hills. We're going into Asti, which is a bit more of an industrial town. It's really where you would connect if you were coming from train through Torino or something like that into Asti. So Cantine Povero is in Cisterna d'Asti. So D apostrophe anything in the Italian language means from the town of. So Cisterna is from the town of Asti. Really here, you're in the beautiful countryside. The difference between the Langhe Hills and the Roero Hills, largely to me, is that you can't make Barolo or Barbaresco on the Roero side. The river that divides the Langhe and the Roero Hills is very important as it relates to the geology and soil in the two different types of land, the Roero side, largely home to indigenous varietals like Barbera, Nebbiolo, Dolcetto, but the famous white varietal Arnese on the Roero side. And then you get into the Langhe Hills, you have the incredible region centered around the towns of Barolo and Barbaresco, but you have the famous wines coming from Nebbiolo, of course, being Barbaresco and Barolo. And then you have other varietals that are very important like Barbera and Dolcetto. And then there's even some very interesting indigenous varietals that have recently been rediscovered like Nascetta, which we will talk about in other producers' videos that we will get to at some other time. And fundamentally for me, tasting the wines, evaluating them to see if they fit within the book, it's all about, is the wine varietally correct? And then, is it priced appropriately? Does it reflect where it's from? And the Povero wines for me answer that question about every consumer that comes back from Italy and says, why can't I find those wines that I had in the trattoria, the osteria, the restaurant, the little cafe that I paid €3 a glass for or €4 a glass for, and they just were fresh and lovely to drink? These are the Povero wines. So really, the combination of the incredible price-value relationship and also their commitment to environment and sustainability, all of their estate vineyards are organic. They are committed completely in the cellar to sustainability with really incredible environmental practices like water conservation through their efforts inside the winery and around their vineyards. A winery that is almost entirely powered by solar. It's a tremendous facility. It's a really incredible technical expertise from the family Povero. And not only is that precision reflected in the wines at an entry level, but also to their commitment to the environment and their view of wine as food in their culture. And they're really committed to that principle at Povero. And it's really, I think, one of the main selling points. You've got the combination, again, of that incredible price-quality relationship and then the commitment to environmental sustainability. This is why I think they have such unlimited potential in the US market. Now let's talk about the wines. In general, I'll take you from top to bottom of the Povero range. We start with the Belvive Sparkling. It's an entry-level wine. As I've talked about before, a lot of the wines from Cantine Povero we refer to as entry-level because we think that fine wine has no price point. So we talk about Belvive Sparkling, which we've seen as low as $5.50 a glass or a bottle being wholesale, being the wholesale price. So $5.50 wholesale up to $7, depending on the range of how you're listing it to market, but still offers a tremendous value. This is a Charmat method sparkling wine. So same method as you would find Prosecco to be made. The difference here is that this is 100% Chardonnay coming from the Piedmont region. So you really can't call it Prosecco because it's not coming from that specific area of the Veneto. But number two, this is also just a very nice wine. I really encourage you to think about this as the brunch killer or that giveaway sparkling wine. Also for end caps at retail, if you're just talking about very good domestic or international bubbles as a retail pour, this is a $9.99, making 35 points as a retailer, everyday price point. So it's a really aggressively priced, high quality wine. We have no issue, of course, always up to the individual that is retailing or the restaurateur, how they want to list it, but we have no issue with using Prosecco method because it still just identifies the type of style, that crisp, fresh style of sparkling wine, as opposed to something like a cava or a classic method sparkling wine that reflects more of that yeast or weight-driven texture to it. So I really encourage you to market it that way and not trying to say, oh, this is an Italian sparkling wine made in the Prosecco method. Really go after the idea that this is a classification wine, this is a style wine, crisp, sparkling wines, and this is excellent for us around the holidays. You get into the still reds, and some of the whites. So from a white category, we offer the estate wine, the Fratelli Povero Arnese. It is single vineyard Arnese. No one cares about single vineyard Arnese unless you're talking about the $35 bottle retail wines of Giacosa. But really, what's important here is the absolutely correct varietal expression of the Arnese wines in this example of the Fratelli Povero Arnese. Delicious bottle of wine. Number two, you get into the reds of Povero's Barbera and the Dolcetto. So here's a great example. This is the Povero Barbera, Barbera di Asti. You have Barbera di Alba coming from the Langhe side, Asti coming from the Roero side. You typically find these wines, they can be a bit more wild in their reflection. I typically think of most of the wines coming from like Vieri or some of the other producers on the Langhe side, coming from Barbera di Alba and Nebbiolo di Alba, etc., to be a little bit more structured and elegant. You're also going to see many of those wines that creep up at that $12 to $15 wholesale price point to have an influence of oak aging. Slavonian oak being the traditional type of oak vessel being used in the Piedmont. Here, this is stainless steel. So light, bright, fruit-driven. The value is passed on in price. It's a pleasure-driven wine, and you're seeing this, again, think of it very simply. It's linear. Light, bright, pleasure-driven wines. So the Barbera and the Dolcetto are totally geared for that everyday restaurant, start out the dinner, buy the glass pour, happy hour sort of list, or that easy sell at the retail level. This pairs everyday wine, $9.99, going well with anything from burgers and things of that nature, chicken dishes, into the classic Italian cuisine, whether that be pizza, pasta, and even more complex dishes coming from the Piedmont. The other wines that we have from the book, of course, we have an incredible bag-and-box program with Cantine Povero. We have Barbera in bag-and-box. We also have Dolcetto. We can do a lot of different varietal wines from Cantine Povero. Of course, indigenous to the Piedmont mostly, out of their lineup in box wine. And then we get into Barolo and Barbaresco. So as I mentioned before, the winery is in Cisternadasti, which is outside of the Langhe Hills, where you would find Barolo and Barbaresco, but they do have contracts on fruit from someone else's estate. It's not bulk market juice, but it's coming from estate vineyards to purchase and manage the vineyards along with those individuals that own the properties to make their own Barolo and Barbaresco. The key there being, unless you're fortunate like another producer of ours, Rivetto, where you're able to be grandfathered into producing wine from Barbaresco in the hills of Barolo, the Povero family must ferment and bottle age on the winery where they are contracting this fruit. So the Barbaresco and Barolo, I still think are great values. At the same time, they are not, as you might look to some of the top end Barolos and Barbarescos around the market. This is not that. We're talking about $20 by the glass pours for Barolo or Barbaresco. Very well made wines. Again, varietally correct to Nebbiolo. Tastes like Barbaresco. It's at the approach of those wonderful soft tannins compared to that of Barolo. But it's a great wine, either the Barbaresco or the Barolo, for those types of customers that are able to either A, get into it at a retail level, or B, want to offer it at a restaurant by the glass pour. It's very attractive for them there. So really, you're not limited to either on or off premise with the Povero wines. I think this is what makes them so versatile. You have an opportunity to be poured at as much as $9 by the glass. I've seen it for the Barbera because it is that good. Or you can be in the everyday mom and pop restaurants that are comfortable buying a $6 wholesale bottle of wine and selling it for $6 a glass and getting a lot of turns that way. So please don't feel limited by the varietal because it can be challenging for some customers. They look at Barbera and they don't think of it as an Italian red wine for a house happy hour pour. So I don't encourage you necessarily, unless you've got a wine savvy customer that you're talking to try and pigeonhole this into, okay, it's Barbera. Do you have a Barbera on your list? Think of it more as, what do you think about your house pour? How is your happy hour wine if it's that type of a restaurant? How about this, one of your core BTG wines? Or put this in a great spot at retail and recommend it, of course, with the typical Italian cuisine, but it also is very versatile for just grilled meats, burgers, things like that. This time of year, I always think about the Povero wines because I'm a huge fan of the family, and we love their winemaking philosophy, making great wines at approachable price points for everyone to enjoy and get into Italian wines, which can be a challenge for some folks. So I really hope that you enjoy the wines of Cantine Povero. Take them out, put them in your bag. You will not disappoint, but you've got to frame the argument, right? Quality price ratio, commitment to environment, and it's all about the pleasure in these wines. So please enjoy them, enjoy the Povero lineup, and continued success as you sell the Volio book. Thank you, and continue to drink well.